I'm inside and I got issues.
Oh yeah, those are good because the legit. Now there's none of that.
Today's issue is Phenomenal Tales Issue 1 Minotaur. Created, written, and layouts by Patrick Quinlan. Colors by Peter Gilmore. Cover by Peter Gilmore. Lineup by Quadillo Sepulveda. Letters by Eric Weathers. And the back cover is by Paul Ravoche. This one. I also got a print of this without all the text, and it's a really cool print. It's pretty cool. If I pronounced your name wrong, I'm sorry. If you haven't read this comic book, I'm gonna spoil it for you. If you don't like spoilers before buying comic books, don't watch this video. Let's continue. I'm gonna rate this on the Sound scale. S for story, A for art, L for lettering, A for action, and D for drama. How does this comic book rate? The story starts with the inside cover having just a little blurb of what the world is like before I go into this comic book, just so I know the differences between the real world and this world. The Soviet Union is in combat with the People's Republic of China after an atomic war that happened in 1972. Immediately we know that there's radiation and we're at war. The phrase, "but the rival communist nation is not the Red Army's only threat," now that's got me intrigued. That has got me reading throughout the rest of the comic book. This book immediately opens with calmness. And then someone shouting and then boom! Right in the middle of conflict. I'm like, already sucked in. I'm already sucked in. Let's go. We know who these people are fighting. We know that we're following the Soviet Union. And they're fighting the Chinese. A lot of heavy action scenes, also good character moments right off the bat. We get to know, A, what type of leader the squad leader is, and also what type of person, what is this, Lieutenant Sivilgrolov? I don't speak English at all, barely. I definitely don't speak Russian. I'm not gonna pronounce these names right. I'm sorry. Lieutenant, I'm just gonna call him Lieutenant from now on. The Lieutenant knows how to stop this fight. It's just a rush, but the squad leader's like, hey, step back, stay back. And the Lieutenant just goes and rushes and immediately kills them all, finishes them off. And then as the helicopters come in with higher command, higher reinforcements because the squad leader called in reinforcements and wanted the lieutenant to wait, but instead the lieutenant was just like, I can just do this myself. And he just goes and just kills all those people. And the squad leader would be like, yo, you're gonna get a talking to. The squad leader sends him to the general. Instead of being punished, he's like, hey, I have an assignment for you. Can you capture this rad monster that's been taking out the Chinese and other camps for the past 3 weeks, please? And he's like, all right, what if I don't accept? Well, then I'm gonna have to court-martial you. Pretty easy offer to accept. And then immediately, I'm like, what is going on? Why am I being introduced to hell? Something fun is about to happen. Because I like the action in the beginning of the book. And then I like this encounter. But I was like, okay, what is this book gonna be like? I'm normally not a huge fan of military shoot books, but this is introducing something supernatural and has hooked me in already. You're about to get me off of that hook, and then you got me hooked more lodged onto that hook, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm hooked again. Ares has summoned the lieutenant to him. Ares is promising him power. You want power, right? I want some power. Yeah, I want to give somebody some power, right? He's the war god. He wants to create war. So of course he's going to give this person who is shown to be vigilant and just kill people alone by himself when normally you need reinforcements to deal with the problem at hand. Yeah, he is the candidate for Ares, and Ares just wants chaos. Ares proposes, hey, do you want to feel like a god? Somebody else is going to take this offer if you don't take it. And Lieutenant's like, who are you? I don't know if this is real at all. And eventually just starts pulling up a gun. Hey, I'm going to shoot at you. I don't know anything about you. And then before he could do that, Ares kisses him and he's back awake. It's just like he passed out. And I like this because then he just gets thrown into a bunch of action again. A bunch of his squad mates are fighting rad monsters, and we get to learn what the rad monsters are. They're monsters made from radiation. Oh yeah, of course! The atomic war! A nuke happened! I like how the scene shows and establishes the squad's dynamic and also the world. It fleshes out the world some more. And it shows that, he's a little sleepy, having a little nap. Alright, it's time for me to go back to sleep because why did I pass out? I must have been tired. I'm gonna go back to sleep. And then we get to show the Chinese camp. And then, just chilling out, hanging out. I'm gonna see this monster. It's like, what? What's going on? What's happening with this monster? And there's like really cool action seeing these people execute the monster. But of course, they can't. They can't execute the monster. The monster's too powerful. They're trying to execute it, but instead they get executed. And they get beheaded. And then their entire camp is out. But then these people, the squad of the lieutenant, they be like hearing this and they go to this commotion and they see it's the lieutenant. The lieutenant's the monster. So Ares is now vesseling himself through the lieutenant. And I really like this page. You see the shadow. It's confirming that this is Ares is in the shadow. He's channeling his energy, his war energy, his chaos, violence energy through the lieutenant. And because of this, he gets flown, and then he gets experimented on, and then there's a serum that's created to create the Minotaur. I felt like this book is just the introduction of the Minotaur. If you didn't want to know any details about the Minotaur, well, this is definitely not the book for you. But this is a really good character introduction book. There's a lot of story to it. There is a lot of character growth, personality. There's just so much to it. There's so much substance. And I just kept flipping. And upon rereading this for 3 times, I do the initial read, and then I do a read of taking down notes, and then a read before I sit down and talk about this, so I read it 3 times. And on the 3rd read was when I noticed the detail of Ares being the shadow. I was like, oh my goodness, you can reread this, and you can see a ton of details that you wouldn't have seen before. So I'm like really excited for issue 2 because I know it's going to have the same amount of detail as this one, or at least I hope. I hope, but I'm confident it will. Now it's time to talk about the art. I always have notes all the time. The shading has lots of cross-hatching. There's a fast and loose style. There's a sketchiness to the style. It kind of feels like, those paintbrushes? These little black paintbrushes? Kind of feels like that, but digital. And I really like that. I like the effect that it has on the art. This is a blue environment with limited green, lots of green on the uniforms. Red caps for the Soviet leader, but everybody else is wearing green. The tent environment is yellowish, but that's the only time variations in colors. There is a very consistent, clear color palette, and it's limited, and I like it. And I also like the shading, too. I think the art is well done. The art is very dynamic. I like the action lines. I like how alive this comic feels because of how the art is drawn. And I feel like the art style supports the action really well. I did notice the Hell landscape is completely different from the Earth landscape. It is red, orange, yellow with blue and purple shadow, which is complete opposite to the limited color palette of Earth. This is colorful, but still color limited to look good. Earth is desaturated versus the Hell world is super saturated. And towards the end, and with the reveal of Minotaur, the monsters are drawn really well and creepy, and I'm convinced, and there's a lot of weight to them, and they're stuff of my nightmares. Good job. I did notice no automatopoeia. The text bubbles are very easy to read. The demon bubbles are black, and everybody else's bubbles are white. No automatopoeia, though. The art itself really helps me live in the world, but what would enhance that is adding automatopoeia. Now it's time for action. I've talked about the action so much in the art section, but I have to mention that this action is so good, so alive. There's so much of it. It's constant combat. It's like in war when you just are chilling one moment and then the next moment somebody's here to shoot you and then you have to shoot back at them and bam, you're in combat. And it's sudden and it's unexpected. And this is that book and it's really fun. I like it. It's very fast paced. It's very compelling. The action lines really help out. The action lines really help speeding up the pace of the bubbles. Versus if there weren't any action lines, it would still feel alive, but I really feel the action lines really emphasize the action. How many times have I said action in this review? Don't do a drinking game to how many times I've done action, or else you will die. Because I've said a lot. This book is so much action. It's really good. If you like military stuff with a supernatural, monstery element to it, then I think you will enjoy this book. This is issue 1, so you can get into it for sure. The drama of this world is heavily political. The Soviets and the Chinese are fighting each other. That's the umbrella drama happening. And of course, we got the action, which is the combat. But then we got the little drama, which are the inner moments between each squad leader, including the squad leader who's getting information from higher ups, who are getting information from higher ups and likely politicians, causing all of this fun jazz. You know, it's all coming down, right? And then the squad leader gets his orders, and he delivers his orders, and the lieutenant's like, no. And that's creating a drama there. That's the tension there, which I like a lot. And then we got a higher up being like, hey, I'm taking notice of you. You'll be interesting to fight some red monsters. Go capture that guy. You're a really good guy at killing. You're a really good killing guy. And then Ares comes in the picture, which is outside of this human structure. It's just a dimensional being. It's a god, quite literally. And then gives this guy, this human, god powers, and then now he's just being elevated. I like it. There's a lot of complexity in this world. I'm really excited. Could you tell that I liked this book? Now it's time to grade it. What does this comic book get? S. This has definitely pulled me in. There is a huge complex world that I haven't even begun to see here, and I've just got a little taste of it, and I'm really excited for it. I like the dialogue between everybody because it establishes each and every one of their characters in the way that they speak. This is a really solid story. This has pulled me in for sure, and it's gotten me wanting to read this again, and wanting to read more issues. This is both rereadable and wants me to continue with the future issues, which I probably will also reread. So I have to give the story a 4.5. And then the art, I feel like the art style, the way that it's drawn, it's really dynamic, it's really alive, the world comes alive. I also like the contrast between all the heavy line art in the foreground, also associated with a lot of the action and just a lot of lines, and then a lot of light lines, like a lot of just fine lines for the landscapes. So there's a difference between the human brutality, human destruction being created, and then nice little calm nature. Just nature's there, just chilling. And I liked it. There's a lot of intentionality for sure. I didn't notice any anatomy issues at all. In fact, it seems like the artist knows anatomy very well. They can draw people from several different angles, and it doesn't look wonky at all. And the colors are really well done. I like the panel layouts for sure. The panel layouts add to the dynamicness of the overall comic book. This is a page turner due to the story, and the art really helps with it. Oh my goodness, it's so dynamic. I love it. I love it so much. The art is so good. I love the colors. I like how intentional the colors were used. Desaturated Earth versus hypersaturated hellscape. And that's just got me wanting to know more about the hellscape personally, because I like colorful things. I'm a big fan of colorful things. I felt like this had the right amount of detail when it comes to just telling the story, but it felt like not every grass blade was being drawn, but it was the right amount of detail. I'd have to give this art, it's a solid 4.5. The lettering! I like the dialogue, I like the placement of the text bubbles, I like the different colors of the text bubbles. However, no automatopoeia. That's what really makes a comic book different than other mediums, is automatopoeia. That's really, you need it. You need the automatopoeia. And because of that, but the other things were so solid. But the lack of automatopoeia, it's got you down to a 3.5. I keep talking about the action because it's so good. I look at action and I marvel at it because personally as an artist, I'm not the best when it comes to action stuff. So whenever I see somebody do action really well, I'm like, that's so cool. I love that. That's so well done. This book, reading it, I was like, this looks awesome. I love the action. Cool, and I love the panel layouts to support the action. I don't regret giving this a 5. This deserves a solid 5 for the action. And then the drama, I feel like since the drama seeps from the top and then goes down and that influences all of the decisions, you know, like it's a world. I'm excited to know more about the world. I'm also excited to learn more about Ares and what his plans are. Overall, this is a pretty dramatic book. I am excited. I like this drama a lot. I'd have to give it's a solid, because it's so well entrenched within everything. I'd have to give it's a 4.5. And so, what does this get on the salad scale? This book gets a 22 out of 25 on the salad scale. And that has been Min's Got Issues.
Oh yeah, those are good.